I had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman I knew of him. I knew he was in real estate. I knew what he was doing, but I didn't really get to meet him, shake his hand, and talk to him about what he's really up to until about 2 years ago. And when I met this guy, I was instantly impressed, not just because he was in a sharp suit, and not just because he had a really great haircut, and he's very well spoken, but because of what he has done with this opportunity. Christion has done what a lot of us probably got into Renatus for. He's been investing in real estate for 11 years now, and using his real estate knowledge, he has actually applied that to giving back to his local community. He's part of the Legacy Initiative in Salt Lake City, which is a homeless outreach program. So every single month, he's running an operation where they go around town and feed the homeless. You just walk around, hand them out either sandwiches or burritos or whatever they're making, but he used real estate to create the operations for that, right? You guys need space in order to make things happen. And not only that, but he's been a very influential leader within our community. I keep taking notes from this guy, so you guys will definitely want to take copious notes. He's a great trainer and a great real estate investor, and better yet, he is a great friend. He's going to take care of you guys tonight, and he's going to show you what he has done with his business. He's made tens of thousands of dollars in the marketing, and he also has been killing it in the real estate field too. He's made over a six-figure net profit. Who would like to net over six figures? Everybody, right? And he's going to show you guys how that ties into this entire marketing system. So please welcome up my good friend, Mr. Superman, Christion Sadler.
Definitely, it's been cool being a part of this business. I'm 22 years old, and many of you have heard the truncated version of my story, where I started here at 22, and walked away from my job within 4 months, and went out there and made a lot of money. I've done millions of dollars in real estate transactions. One of my last deals, I net over $124,000 in profit. And it's a cool opportunity. You guys agree with me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. Is that a little awkward?
Good.
Has anybody ever felt like maybe you did that in real life?
All the time.
It's strange when I do it on stage, but has anybody ever had anything happen to them in their life where maybe they stayed down too long?
Yes.
See, it's great to share the truncated version of my story, the elevator speech version, so to speak, but that doesn't really go into the ups and downs along the way. It hasn't been a linear path to success. I'll share that with you guys right now. As a matter of fact, when I first started this business, it was very tough for me. Okay. When I quit my job, I was living on borrowed time and borrowed money. And I had not yet adopted the habits of an entrepreneur. And at that time, I was 22 years old. I was coming from a complete different background, right? Getting drunk on the weekends and getting in fistfights was like every week for me. That was a normal part of my life. Okay. So I came into this business and I had such high hopes and I had such great examples. And so I thought, man, if these guys can do it, then I can do it. I need to get out of the steel shop. I quit my job. But I didn't have the habits of an entrepreneur. And at the time, I was actually in a very toxic relationship. Once I kind of figured it all out, she'd actually shared with me that I was just a joke between her and her friends. They wanted to see how much she could take from me. Turns out it was pretty much everything, my self-esteem, everything that I had. I was to the point where I was running this business. I was coming to a Thursday night presentation, middle of winter, in Salt Lake City, Utah. You guys have similar winters here, so you can, relate with me a little bit, right? A couple feet of snow on the ground, and I get home, and all my utilities are shut off. So, middle of winter, right? No water, no power, no heat. And I had some mentors at that time, and I don't think anybody knew how far down that I got. I mean, there's maybe a couple that I was close with, but I'm pretty good at standing tall, right? But there were some mentors that could see that I needed a little bit of a boost. And so they took me in, and they gave some challenges to me, some accountability. One of my personal mentors, Chad Wade, at the time, he was making over $1 million a year just on the referral side of this business. And I went to him and I took on a challenge where I was going to make a certain amount of phone calls, regardless of whether I had the leads or not. I was going to make a certain amount of phone calls each week. And if I didn't make it, I was going to give him $1,000. Now, I didn't have $1,000. This is somebody that I respected at such a high level that there's no way I wanted to let it down. And doing those simple daily actions started producing results. And I took myself out of where I was. Now, it took me a while, right? I kind of stayed down too long, but I finally took myself out of that environment, started surrounding myself with leaders. I started writing down my goals and visualizing them and backtracking them to the daily actions, doing those daily actions. And within a very short amount of time, I had over $3 million in real estate. Over $1 million of that was equity. Okay, I was making $15,000, $20,000 a month. My best month at the time being $29,250. Now, I didn't make much over $30,000 a year before I started this business, so $30,000 a month was a big deal to me. Right? However, when I acquired that piece of real estate that put me over that $1 million, that millionaire mark, right? $1 million in equity. This was June of 2007. I don't know if you guys know what started happening right around that time. But as quickly as I had achieved this wealth, it started going in a downward spiral. It took a while to figure out for most of us. Because when you're making great money, you can continue to float things for a while, right? But I remember making, $20,000 in a day and spending it within a week just to try and keep things moving, just to try and keep my real estate moving, right? And through that time, there were some specific things that I did to achieve that success before all that. And I realized recently, when I made the shift where I wasn't earning to the same potential or the same reality, I stopped doing those things that worked. I stopped writing down my goals. I stopped going over them daily. I stopped backtracking into the daily actions. I was so caught up in the doing or the whirlwind of life that I stopped doing the things that had gotten me to that point of success. And naturally, I went backwards. Now, from 2007 through 2010 was a whirlwind where we basically lost everything again. And during that time, I was 24 years old, living in a 10,000 square foot house with a pool, all this stuff. And there were people around me that were also losing. And I took some of those people in. I had a friend of mine from Canada who was living with me and just gone through a divorce. Another gentleman who was 60 years old. He was about to go live with his mother in a little small town in Utah. And I said, no, just come live with me. Let's continue to focus. Girlfriend that I was with at the time. And I took all these people into my home and we were basically subsidizing them so that we could all keep moving forward. And by the end of it, by the time we got through it all, 2 of the 3 people that I had taken in had kind of stabbed me in the back. The girlfriend actually cheated on me at a live taping of a college that was happening in Arizona. And the gentleman, that 60-year-old gentleman that I brought into my house, actually he made up lies and tried to get me kicked out of the company, tried to take this opportunity away from me, something that I was so passionate about. And I took those hurts and I related them to the success. I just barely figured this out, guys, like a week ago when I was supposed to speak at the Arizona Regional. And it was interesting because about 2 weeks before that, there was a book that was stuck in the group Audible. You guys on the Audible?
Yes.
Okay. And it was called, I Know What to Do, Why Don't I Do It? I think they put it in there specifically for me. I swear. Michael shared with me later that it was like one of the most expensive programs we have in there. Funny thing about it, I downloaded it 2 weeks prior, but hadn't listened to it yet, right? But I listened to that on my way to Arizona. I took a road trip out there. And he went through some things that made me realize, you know what, there's only two reasons that people don't do when they don't do the things they know to do when they know how to do them. And it's either they know and they can't, or they know and they won't. And both of those things usually relate to similar scenarios, a lack of energy. And sometimes that lack of energy comes from, diet, exercise, improper diet, lack of exercise, those types of things. But oftentimes it comes from a lack of vision. Lack of vision. See, many of us, in fact, 97% of entrepreneurs are off the charts at how well we can visualize. Like, we're good at that, right? But many of us use it in a negative way. We visualize worst case scenario, right? Or something that can sometimes be even more detrimental. We paint these castles in the sky and we move into them. Right? We use this visualization to escape and avoid reality. And here's what happens. If you don't have a goal, if you can't visualize where you're going, you're not going to have the energy to move towards it. So visualization is very important. It's very important. You have to see it so vividly you can actually feel it, right? You can smell the smells, you can, taste the food, you can feel that water, pool, whatever it is. I don't know what your dream is, but you've got to be able to see it. You've got to be able to visualize it. But you can't move in there. You've got to be able to backtrack it, because if you live in this castle in the sky, if you go to bed with that dream, see, back in the day, there was this amazing movie that came out. It's called The Secret. Anybody heard of The Secret? But it was also very detrimental to a lot of people because it left some things out. I was lucky. I had some mentors that explained this process to me. See, if all you do is sit in that recliner and pretend you're in your Ferrari and you fall asleep there, you wake up tired. Why? Because you wake up to a reality that's different. See, your mind doesn't know the difference between what you're visualizing and reality. So when you wake up in reality, the chemicals that flow through your body are the same chemicals that would be released if you were being chased by a bear. Cortisol and adrenaline. And this is the reason that you guys may sit yourself down and say, I've got 4 hours, I'm going to make phone calls today. And your heart starts beating really, really fast. You're not even exercising, right? You're sitting down and your heart's beating fast. Pretty soon you say, you know what, I need to organize these leads first. As soon as I organize them, then I'll more likely make these calls. Well, let me sort through these and let me just, make sure that I'm calling the most likely prospects first. So, let me take a little bit more time here. And you know what? My my desk is dirty, this just isn't the right environment to make calls, but as soon as I clean my office, then I'll start making these calls. Right? And then you think to yourself, you know what, I heard that if I have a mirror, I gotta go buy a mirror, because if I have a mirror at my desk and I can smile, then people will hear my smile through the phone, and so I'm just gonna go buy a mirror and then I'll start making these calls. And then by the end of that time that you set aside, what happens? Oh, it's already passed. You know what? I'll get to it tomorrow. No big deal. Right? You feel tired, lethargic, and it builds over time. See, if you live there and then you wake up in reality, your body is in the fight or flight response. So one thing that I realized, and Bob Snyder did an amazing exercise recently. He had us as leaders take a look at, because we're all leaders for a reason, right? Somebody doesn't get on the fit or the fab without producing specific results, like monetary results. And he had us look back at our best month and said, what were you doing then that you're not doing now? And I looked backwards and I looked at how I used to write out my goals. It's funny, I've taught on goal setting for years now, and years have gone by that I have not specifically written out my goals and visualized them and done those things. I'm open, I'm honest with you guys today. I'm sharing this with you. I was teaching people to do it, yet not doing it myself. Right? And I'm powerful when I write down goals. I mean, in Hawaii, I wrote down a goal. This was December. I wrote down a goal of having a six-figure month. Having a 6-figure month in net profit. February, I cleared $124,000 in net profit on a transaction. In Punta Cana, I wrote down my ideal relationship. Like I wrote and I visualized my ideal relationship. About a month later, I ended up with an amazing girlfriend. So I'm powerful when I do it. And I realized that I hadn't. So I made a commitment last week to write down my goals and to backtrack them. See, here's the key part. You can't just write down these goals, visualizing them, live in them. If you wake up and you put yourself in that visualization and then you try and get into your day, that bear is right there in your face. So what you do is you take the goal, and it might be 10 years out or 5 years out. And you put yourself in that moment. You live in it, you feel it, and then you start going backwards. If it's a 5 years goal, where would you need to be in year 4? Because obviously it's not going to be, if you want to make $1 million a year in 5 years, you're not going to make $1 million next year, right? You're going to gradually move up towards it. So what would it be on year 4? What would it be on year 3? What would it be on year 2? What would it be on year 1? Month 11, month 10, 6 months from now? What would it be like 4 months from now, 3 months from now, next month? What would you need to do in the next 30 days to move towards becoming that person that would have those things? What about 3 weeks? 2 weeks? Next week? This week? What would you need to do in the next 6 days? What would you need to do in the next 3 days? What about tomorrow? And how about the daily actions today? Can I throw a number out for you guys to make this really simple? Me and Mitch Nielsen have taken a group of IMAs and we've really worked with them and getting them out there, doing the lead generation, making the phone calls, getting certified. I've got a 21-year-old kid that's making $10,000 a month with us, right? And here's what we found out. About 1 in 100 go combo, cash combo. Like we didn't count any of the other sales, but about 1 in 100 of the people that they talk to, cash combo. So 3 people per day, 3 new contacts per day means $10,000 per month. You guys want some daily actions? 3 people per day means $10,000 a month. So visualize yourself moving backwards, and end on the daily actions you're going to do today. What lead generation sources are you going to put out? What kind of calls are you going to make? Who do you need to connect with? Who do you need to reconnect with? End in that moment and move forward with your day from there. And you'll start achieving those goals. Now, the other commitment that I made is back when I was making those big numbers, when I was making, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, I had a coach. I always had a coach. I coached with a man named Jeffrey Combs. Great man, taught me some amazing things. Dave Blanchard from the Ogmandino group. So I made the commitment, and I just started coaching with Woody Woodward. You guys will have a chance probably to hear about Woody's program. I took that on, the one-on-one coaching with Woody Woodward, because I'm committed to living into my potential. And I'm not going to stay down there anymore. I'm going to stand up. I want to know who's willing to stand up with me.
Stand up.
Who's willing to stand up?
Yeah.
Let's stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up. All right, folks. I appreciate you guys allowing me to be here with you. And I'm going to give the time right back to Nick Newman.